Peace and love. What's going on, y'all? I'm Bradley. I go by Lizard of Oz. I'm an artist, producer, and audio engineer, currently based in the Bahamas and from the Bahamas as well, born and raised. Today, in this video, I want to share the story with you guys of how I moved to Toronto 2 years ago with $60 in my pocket and survived. Now, for starters, before I even get started into going into the story, I just want to say that if you are a person with any sort of sense in your brain, I would not recommend this at all. It's not an easy thing to pull off, and it's definitely something that God, the universe, had to be on my side in order for this thing to come across. And I already knew because I just knew it was God's will for me to go. I already knew it was in the cards. So if you just like wanna just go on an adventure and you only got $60, do not go to Toronto. That's the worst place you'll ever go because everybody knows that that's one of the most expensive places in Canada. It's probably the most expensive place in Canada, aside from Vancouver, maybe. Maybe those two are head to head at it, but Toronto is very expensive. Um, and it's good that I didn't know that because that would have scared me off. I went in blind. So let me start the story in a way that it makes sense. I was doing grad school in Tampa, Florida. I'd finished my bachelor's degree in Oral Roberts University. And then, I started doing grad school there. And for some reason, not for some reason, I know exactly the reason why, the track and field program there got underfunded. Like, they cut the funding for the track and field program, basically saying that, hey, this sport isn't doing as much for our school as we wanted to do, and we want to put more of our resources into basketball. So they cut track and field, and so most of the guys that had scholarships and most of the people that their basically their whole life was dependent on their track scholarship, their whole life and their education, their shit got cut. And thankfully, I already got my bachelor's degree at that point in time. I was just doing business school for my master's. Um, and that happened, and I was forced, basically, not really forced, because I mean, low-key, I sort of wanted to leave still, but I had to go find another school to go to. So I was still running track at the time, trying to find a way to escape the track and field world and enter into the music world, living as an artist, being a musician. Ever since I was a kid, I knew that was my passion, I knew that was my calling. But I also knew that my talent was, being fast, running track and field, and that was something that I did and I utilized for to my best ability and got every single opportunity out of it until it couldn't serve me anymore. And I'd reached a point where I was looking for a way out of track and field, but I was still running. And because I needed to find another school to go to, I needed to run fast. And that year, the year 2022, was, aside from my freshman year, my best year. It was my best year in track and field. I ran the 400 meters. My best time that year outdoors was 46.20, which was a personal best. Um, and then um, I also ran a personal best of 20.71 in the 200 meters. Um, so everybody that knows collegiate track and field, D1 track and field, knows that those are good times. Those are really good times. Those are serious times. Um, Especially for somebody that was just running track and field to get through college and not necessarily wanted to go pro or anything like that. It was a really good year for me. It was my best year in track and field, and my last year in track and field as well, which, I went out with a bang. It was a really good time. I made the national team, the senior national team, and represented the Bahamas at the World Championships in Eugene, Oregon, 2022, and I ran the mixed relay. And then when I got back home, I signed that scholarship letter, that 100% scholarship letter saying that I was going to USF. And then, boom, as soon as I went back to Tulsa, packed up my stuff, me and my girlfriend, we drove down to Tampa, Florida, to the Bay. And, started, living life from there. Now, to make another long story short, as I mentioned before, I was looking for a way to transition out of track and field and go into music, and I found my way. And my way was to just fucking quit. I decided that I just didn't want to do this anymore. I didn't like grad school. I didn't like business school. I didn't like the track and field program. I didn't like just my life at the moment. And I felt that I needed to just let go. I took some shrooms. I remember I took maybe about 2.5, maybe 3 grams in shrooms, and went through a whole psychedelic trip, and just to realize that, right, I only got one life, and I gotta live my life, and whoever I think I'm living for, or whoever I think I'm trying to please, this is not their life, it's my life. And um, I realized that everything I do, and just me myself, I'm going to be forgotten in the next in 500 years from now. I won't even be a thought. You understand? We think we're so special. We think we're so, which we are special. We are unique in that we're human beings and that we matter because we are life and we have life and we are part of life. But we don't matter as much as we think we matter. We're just a speck of dust in the whole grand, vast universe. And we think that, oh, if I do this, then the whole community is going to be sad at me. And the Bahamas is a huge hub for track and field. And my all of my networks, all of my friends, everybody that I knew me for running track and field, or they helped support me in that way, or it was just all around the track and field world. And I thought that if I quit this right now, that I'm gonna lose everything and everyone that I know. And I did, to a certain point. Up to a certain point, I basically did. I became somebody else. I took on a new identity, but I felt that it was worth it, and that's what I did. So as soon as I quit, I called my coach, because I couldn't sit down and talk with him, because it was like a Christmas break, and everybody was like in their own cities and whatnot. So I called him, had a conversation with him, told him that I wouldn't be coming back. I did the off season, from August or September of 2022 to December. And before January came, I called him and I let him know that this is not in the cards for me. I'm not gonna do this. And he was like, "All right." And then he pulled my scholarship. And when my scholarship was pulled, that meant that I had to supply my own funds to get me through school, which I didn't even want to go to school anymore. Yeah, I wanted to be done with that, right? And so, with that being said, I had between 5 to 6 months to figure out my life and get the fuck out of the United States of America before I get flagged for overstaying my time as a student, as a guy on a student visa, on an F1 visa. So my girlfriend and I, we sat down, we thought about things. We were thinking about going to Honduras. That's where she's from. And we were like, hey, her family lives there. Let's just figure things out. Let's just go there. We don't know what else we're gonna do. I wasn't prepared to go back to the Bahamas. Circumstances here wasn't ideal and wasn't inviting for me to come back, and it just wasn't the right time. So I said, I'm not going back to the Bahamas, and I'm not bringing her back to the Bahamas. Um, and I decided that, okay, maybe Honduras can be the move. But then I sat down, I thought about it, and I prayed, and I went through the whole psychedelic trip, and I realized, bro, I need to give this shit a shot. I gotta give myself a fair chance. And so, knowing that I couldn't go to any music town in the U.S. because it's the U.S. and I had to leave, I was like, what's the next hub? What's the next music hub that I can go to that's sort of viable for me to go? And we decided that Toronto was the best decision for us to make at that point in time. So we put in our applications. The applications got approved. We did our biometrics. We paid whatever fees. We booked our tickets. But throughout this point in time, you know, if you're on an F1 visa and you're in the US, you can't work. You can't work a regular job. You can't go, work anywhere that's off campus. And so I couldn't work on the campus, and I couldn't work off campus, and I couldn't work on the campus either, because I was no longer a student there. So I was in this position where I needed to make some things work. I needed money. So, you know, I just did Uber Eats. Just did Uber Eats every single day for 5 to 6 months, from January of 2023 all the way until up until the point where we had to leave. I just did Uber Eats because that was the only way that I could feed myself, and you know, so me and my girlfriend, we just did it together, and it was a really cool experience. It was a fun experience, honestly, because I love driving, and it was great. So yeah, we downsized, left our apartment, went to like a smaller, little unit, and then just did Uber Eats every single day. The thing about Uber Eats is that you make enough money for you to be able to survive, but not enough for you to save up, and not enough for you to be able to move to a new country, especially. Not a lot of expenses and a lot of debt in the U.S. that I accrued that I needed to take care of. And so it just came to the point where the day before we had to leave, I realized that fuck, I got about $60 in my bank account right now, and I'm about to go move to a new country. How am I even gonna do this? How am I gonna survive? What am I gonna do? Um, but I still did it. And honestly, looking back on it, this is why I said don't recommend this. Is because like mentally, what I was going through at that particular point in time, it was a dark time. Like it was a dark mentally, and the only thing that would keep me together is music, for the most part. And in the dream that I had for myself, so I was like, all right, let's just do this shit. So um my girlfriend, she came with me as well because she decided that she wanted to do another year of school. So she went there for school, and I went there just to work and find my way in the industry in some way somehow, right? So we went there. As soon as we landed, first thing we got was an Airbnb, right, for like 3 days or something. And while we're staying at the Airbnbs, mind you, I've got like $60 in my pocket, right? So I got to be very, 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 very frugal. So like me and my girl, we're just making things work, right? In terms of like food, in terms of like staying, in terms of like whatever we need to live day to day, right? And I'm sweating like a motherfucker, but my AC is a bit weird right now, and the studio is really hot. The first thing I did when when we arrived, we got our Airbnbs, and then I looked for the nearest bank, just like wherever I could find the nearest bank. We didn't even know how to take the TTC at the time. We didn't know how that worked. The subway. It's like, what is a subway? Is a subway a train? Like, what is it? Like, what do I do? And just it's very seldom very seldom in life that people experience this level of lostness. I don't even know if that's a word, but we were lost. But it wasn't like a hopeless loss. It was like you just figuring out a puzzle. Like everything's there. You just need to know how to put it together. That's what it was like. So even though it was very intimidating and scary sometimes, on the other hand, it was so adventurous. Like I felt so alive. Like it felt really good. You know, it's hard to describe. That part I would recommend. I would recommend you get lost in a country. Have money though. I would recommend you go on an adventure and not really plan where you're going and how you're gonna do it. Oh my gosh. Like it's a priceless experience. And for me, like the songs and all the art and everything that I was able to create through those experiences, it's just priceless. Those are moments that's worth more than any car you could buy. Anyways, let's just get back to the story. So now we find our way somehow to a TD bank, open up a bank account, and first thing I did was just applied for a credit card. I didn't have any credit there, so I guess that allowed me to be able to get approved. So I got approved for a card, um, So basically, the way I was able to survive there was, for the first few days, was through credit and through working things out with my girlfriend in terms of like um, just making do, just make do with what you got, right? And we was going from Airbnb to Airbnb to Airbnb. Honestly, we thought that we, as soon as we arrived, that we would just find like a place to stay. Like we would just find some place. Um, but it honestly didn't even work like that because we didn't anticipate how much the shortage was. And in our defense, at that point in time when we arrived in Toronto, Canada, that was June 2023. That was the height of the immigration stream. That was the height of how many, the level, the amount of people. That was the peak of the amount of immigrants that were coming into Canada. Like it was just by floods. And with that being said, there were barely any places to stay for Airbnb, much less an apartment, much less a condo or something like that. And how we were gonna be able to afford a condo, I have no fucking idea. We were just figuring it out. I just know, okay, I got a credit card now. Now I could, I could start spending on whatever we need. If we need food, we need more food. We need this. We need this. We need a place to stay. The hardest thing was housing because number one, we didn't anticipate it, and then number two, it was just unnaturally hard to find a place to stay. It was unnatural, and the situations and the living conditions that we saw that people were staying in. Listen, this is why I know that social media is just a superficial thing because you could see somebody portraying a lifestyle, but you do not know how that person is living. Trust me, trust you, me. You do not know, and you do not want to know because you just need to mind your own fucking business. Everybody just gotta live their life. So it was one of those situations where we're looking at basements, and it's a normal thing in Canada for you to live in a basement. It's not like, oh, you live in a basement. No, it's not. It's a normal thing, right? We were looking at basements. We were looking at it was people living in. It's like 10, 15 people living in like a fucking two bedroom or a basement. It was like we were seeing Facebook Marketplace listings where people were renting half of their room. Literally, they draw a line with tape, half of their room. One half is $100. Yeah, they're renting it out just so that they could be able to afford rent. It was bad. It was a real crisis, and I think it still is, right? But a lot of people have moved out of Canada since then, including me and Andrea, me and my girl. Um, so maybe that's getting better. But it was a real crisis, and the only way we were able to survive. Oh, let me tell you the story about how we got scammed. So I don't want to go into the details, but somebody who my girlfriend knew, who she trusted, had a connection, and was like, hey, if you guys need a place to stay for like 1 or 2 months, if you got the money ready with you, we know this guy, just hit him up. We hit up the guy, we check out the place. The place was fucking dilapidated. Like it was, oh my goodness, it was a dump, and it was a house filled with people, like filled. Like I honestly couldn't even count. It was like every day it's a new face. You see a new face, right? And it was this guy that was basically like the leader, the alpha of the pack, right? And he's organizing this whole thing, and he's like, yeah, you can stay in this room. And when we went into the room, it's like, what the fuck is that scent? The scent, it smelled like a dead body, right? And I was like, bro, it smells weird. Like things need to be cleaned out. And he's looking at me like I'm bougie. I'm like, bro, we're paying, right? But we were out of options, and we didn't want to have to spend more money on Airbnb. So we were like, you know what? Yeah, we'll take it. So he's like, yeah, you got to pay us in advance, right? So we pay him that 1 month in advance or whatever. And then we start staying there, and then all of a sudden he starts asking for more money, not just from us, from everybody. He wants you to contribute. Oh, if he wants, if everybody wants a pizza, everybody has to pay for a pizza. I'm like, no, we have our own food. We bought our own groceries and this and that. And because we didn't want to comply with the program, quote unquote, uh, he looked for a reason to kick us out, basically, and he kicked us out, took our money, and we couldn't do anything about it. We called the police. police wouldn't get involved. We tried to reach out to the housing board or whatever. Those guys are basically non-existent. There's no office. You got to call where, call who. Will they pick up the phone? No. It was a fucking travesty. And I think that's one of the most corrupt markets, the housing market in Canada, in Toronto. That's It's very corrupt. It was fucked up. So that's that story, right? So don't trust everybody, you know. But it honestly worked out because the next Airbnb, we had to leave from that place that we got scammed at, and we had to find another Airbnb. And the other Airbnb that we found, we broke it to the lady straight. We were like, listen, we know this is just an Airbnb, but we're just looking, we're just, we're just looking for a place to stay long term, or just a place that we could stay for a few months until we find a long term place. Can you please help us out? Can we work out like an amended deal between us two, that Airbnb doesn't know about or something like that? And the people were nice enough that we went and visited them. We spoke to them. They got to know us. We got to know them. And the place that they presented to us was nice and okay. And at the point in time, uh, they were asking like, "Hey, do you have any income? How are you gonna pay for this place?" And throughout that entire time, where I'm going through scams. I'm going through not, we're going through not being able to find an Airbnb, a place to stay. We're going through all kind of shit. But at the same time, every day, I'm taking the, I'm taking I don't know what I was taking the TTC, right? Trying to find my way, getting lost and shit to get to Yonge Street, to get to a downtown, so that I can find a job. Knocking on doors, knocking on doors, knocking on doors, walking into stores, handing out resumes, asking people, "Hey, are you hiring? Hey, I can do this." Going to different studios, saying, "Hey, do you need an engineer? Do you need a producer?" Everybody saying no. Everybody saying sorry. Everybody saying no. We ain't got it. We can't afford it right now. Everybody saying like, "Oh no, it's not gonna work out." And I just kept going and going, going, going. And at the same time, we still don't have a solid place to stay. We're still staying in Airbnbs. We're still, trying to figure things out with, what we're gonna eat. We're still, going through the process of getting scammed by this fucking guy. It was just a lot to go through, right? And then this one day, I was on Yonge Street, just walking from. I walked south, from Bloor and Yonge, all the way down to like, I don't know, like Wellesley or something like that. Not Wellesley. Maybe like College Street, all the way down, right? Almost like close to Dundas, right? Then I cross the road and then I walk all the way up back on Yonge Street, towards Bay, and I'm just going into stores and just exploring and just asking people, "Hey, do you need a worker? Do you need this? Do you need that?" Right as I'm about to go to the subway station, I look to my right and I see these headphones. I see the store, like this glass window or whatever, and I see these futuristic alien-looking headphones. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. You know what? Just before I go home, let me just stop here. I texted my girl, be like, hey, I'm gonna stop at the store real quick. I'm gonna be on the way home. So I go into the store, and all I'm seeing is just shit that I couldn't even describe. It was just an unreal. It was like I was like, I'm looking, right? And I just couldn't. I'm seeing things that now I can label these things, and I know about these things, and I know how they work. But at the point in time, I didn't know what they were. I just knew that, oh, those are speakers, those are headphones, but I didn't know what a preamp was. I saw turntables, but I didn't even know how they worked. I was looking at just a bunch of different shit. So basically, it was an audiophile store, right? But just before I left, I stopped at the receptionist and I told her, "Hey, are you guys hiring right now? You looking for a worker, or anything like that?" And it was just a nice, sweet lady. Her name was Sarah, and she was like, no, but I'll give you our manager's business card, and you just email her, and she'll let you know if there's any opening or something like that." So I took her card. So the next day, I'm back out. I'm in another area now. I'm in Sherway Gardens, looking for a job in Sherway Gardens Mall, and I stop in the food court. Buy a little something to eat, and I pull out my laptop and I'm just looking online, and applying for stuff online. And I remember that I have this card, so I pull out the card. I saw the email. I sent the resume to the email. Sent a nice little email and stuff like that, and a little note. And she got back to me. She's like, "Hey, could you could you come to an interview? I think it was a Friday or a Thursday or something like that. Like, could you come on Monday for an interview? I was like, yeah, yeah. And she got back to me within minutes, fast, right? So I got the interview. Cool. Got the interview. Uh, yeah. So I got the interview. Went to the interview. Made a connection with the hiring manager, and later on, she called me. A couple of days later, she called me. She's like, "Yeah, you got the job." So fast forward now. Now we're in the Airbnb, negotiating and getting to know the people there. And they were asking me, "Hey, do you have a job? How can you supply, the funds to be able to, to live here?" And I was like, "Well, I don't have a job right now, but I just, well, technically, yeah, I did get a job, and I start in a few days. So I just need to, I just need a place to settle and make sure my girl is safe and make sure everything is okay, so that I can go and start working and stuff like that. Um, and yeah, that's basically how it worked out, And we were just planning to be there at the Airbnb for like 2 or 3 months until we finally found another place to stay. But you know, seeing how typical landlords are in Canada, and just seeing how the market was, we were just like, look, you know what? It's a small space. It's a basement studio, but let's take advantage, not really take advantage, but let's take advantage of this blessing, let's these people are nice. These people are reasonable with us. They give us a flexible payment schedule. They're not all up in our business. The place is presentable. It's clean. We're like, what more can we ask for? Let's just take advantage of this and just see how things go from there. And then we ended up staying at that place for 2 years and developing a relationship with those people. Up to this very moment, we still have a great relationship with them, even though we are now in the Bahamas. And partially, if it wasn't for them and their help and their generosity and being flexible with us, we probably wouldn't have survived there. We not probably we wouldn't have survived. They were a vital, 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 vital aspect of our survival there. And then number two, just the fact that I was able to land that job so soon. I mean, um, the hiring lady didn't know, what I was going through. I didn't explain my situation to her or anything like that. I didn't tell her, hey, please come and help me, come and save me. I just presented myself, showed that I could provide value, express my interest and my love for music, and was honest. I told her, look, I'm just a hippie guy with a love for music, that just wants to, work at a place where I can feel like home. And I don't know, I just ended up getting it like that, And yeah, I'm grateful to all of them for how things went, and because if it wasn't for them, I would not have been able to survive in Toronto, after moving there with $60 in my pocket. So I just say that to say, hey man, if you have a dream, no matter what your pocket's looking like, chase that dream. If you have a dream, no matter what your pocket's looking like, chase that dream. Even though I'm not in Toronto anymore. I'm back in the Bahamas. The wealth of experience that I have under my belt is something that's worth more than any college degree. It's worth more than it's worth a lot. I could say that. And based on what I'm doing right now here in the Bahamas, and the value that I could provide to people over here, based on my time in Canada, I don't regret that decision one bit. I wouldn't recommend that people do it, but sometimes you just got to take a risk. And the wealth of experience and the wealth of knowledge and the networks that I have now, I wouldn't have had if I just took the safe route and said, you know what, let me just take another alternative. No, I said, shit, I got $60 in my pocket, but I want to be an artist. I want to be a producer. I want to be a musician. I want to enter the industry. I'm going to do it. And I did it. And yeah, I'm still on my journey, and we're gonna see how things work out. But that just shows you where my mind is at. I'm willing to take the risk. I'm willing to do it just to make things happen, because at the end of the day, that's just what it takes. And you have to disregard every single noise that's around you of people putting their identity of you on you. You have to have your identity for yourself, and you have to act on it. All right. I think that's all I want to say. So yeah, I just released two songs, real ones and moments. Go check it out. If you resonate with it, leave a like, comment, share it with your friends. Have moments with it. And if you want to be able to download it, download it. The links are there. And I hope to see you soon. All right. Bless.